Hello there, my very good friends. On today's wrestling news, we're going to tell you how AEW are blocking talent from going to WWE.
Ricky Starks to WWE? Not yet.
WWE Raw runtime, what the hell's going on? 2 hour, 3 hour, 4 hour, 12 hours?
I wish. And Keith Lee provides an update on his potential wrestling return.
Imagine a 12-hour Raw. That would probably
every day of my life,
be the end of me.
Every day of my life.
Hi, my name's Andy.
I'm Michael.
All right, let's do the news. This is the news. Wilburn's on holiday. It'll take us a day or two to get into the flow of the introduction here. Right, by the way, we'll have a second news video coming later today where we're going to talk about some backstage expose stuff from WWE from a Rolling Stone article that came out, as well as some other bits and pieces as well. But first of all, we're going to talk about how AEW are kind of preventing wrestlers from going to WWE after wrestling on Forbidden Door. Apparently, they've been a bit stung by Stephanie Vaquer, who, of course, wrestled... I almost called her Sasha there. Mercedes Money on Forbidden Door this year. Very, very good match. And then it was like, I don't know, like 2 weeks later or something, she signed with WWE. She appeared on a house show, and she's now become a regular on NXT television, which is, of course, totally fine because she wasn't contracted to AEW, so she doesn't have any obligation to that company, so she's just exercising her right as a uncontracted talent.
Yeah.
However, if you were the company that booked her, you might be like, that's a bummer. That sucks. We wanted her. Then you maybe should have tried a bit harder. But they are trying a bit harder now. I'm going to read you this report from Fightful. New Japan and AEW sources believe that it's likely that talent that work Forbidden Door or other co-promoted shows in the future would have to make an agreement to not immediately go to WWE, likely just under, like as a contract type thing, rather than a separate agreement. This hasn't been confirmed yet within the company that this thing exists, but it seems like they're trying to protect themselves a little bit. Yeah, I mean, to me, the obvious solution to this would be don't use unsigned talent.
Yeah.
Because, right, if you have the security of a contract, you can't then just jump ship if you have like 2 years left on your deal, right? I think that if you want to use unsigned talent, you just kind of have to accept that as a risk.
I mean, ultimately, like wrestling has, or promoters especially, have managed to get away with this grey area for decades now because of wrestlers being classed as independent contractors. You have no compete clauses, so when wrestlers leave companies or get released or whatever, there's that certain period of time before they can appear anywhere else. At very least, I suppose, if they're signing versions of those, that's something. But I kind of side with the wrestlers on this one, to be honest, you know? Like, it's hard enough to get any kind of rights or security in your job. It's not a line of work that typically favours the workers, other than at least the money they can secure from these new deals, because the wrestling companies themselves are richer than ever. So yeah, like I don't hold it against anybody after getting a platform, and this kind of works both ways as well. Like getting any kind of platform on one of the mainstream promotions, or even through New Japan, then being able to turn that into another opportunity elsewhere. It's obviously within the company's rights to AEW here, I guess in this case, to be able to try and tie them down a little bit more. But again, if you're going to do that, pay them for that. So even if you're bringing them in for like 6 months to a year for the benefit of these kind of shows, at least then those wrestlers have got that secured income coming in as well.
Yeah, for sure. I've always sided, well, I mean, sometimes wrestlers are silly and do other things. But usually in cases like this, I tend to side with the worker because it's not an industry that has always treated workers with the best. It's a bit better now, of course, but, you know, we still have a long way to go. I think that in general, I know Stephanie Vaquer caught a lot of heat for cancelling some Mexican dates that she had as well and things like that. And it's like, that's not ideal, but at the same time, if you're an independent, if you're a true freelancer and you're given the security of a full-time gig, well, it's kind of on the companies to put securities into play that prevent. Like, another good example would probably be the former Ben Carter. Now, of course, Nathan Frazier in WWE. He had a main event, I believe, against Scorpio Sky, wasn't it? On a Tuesday night episode of Dynamite a few years ago, and then ended up in WWE because it was his dream to do so. So, look, it's just part of the risk of working with freelancers is that stuff like this will happen. If you want to sign someone, maybe just maybe just sign them instead of booking them as a freelancer. Give them a job, right?
Well, this is it, right? Yeah. the wrestlers never will work out. We have a bit of an update on somebody else that could be making that jump. It's certainly one we've been speculating on for ages at this point, probably nearly a year, maybe longer. Ricky Starks.
Yes.
Dating back as far as the 2023 Royal Rumble because of his friendship with Cody Rhodes, but then certainly what kind of has happened to his AEW run over the last sort of 12 to 16 months. There's been lots of speculation that sooner or later he will surface in WWE. The nature of his contract has been called into question. He has done interviews, including with our very own Andrew Pollard on this very channel, like discussing that he's available and he's fit to work and just not getting booked well. Sean Ross Sapp came through with a little bit more information on his current status, and just to tell everybody to cool their jets somewhat on the move to WWE right now. In response to some questions about this, the quote from Sean Ross Sapp said, "Not at any point this year. He's under AEW contract and it isn't up anytime soon. I've seen a lot of misinformation about his situation of late, but I've not heard that he has any contact with WWE or anything like that." So I guess that puts a timeline on it for now. End of 2024. It feels relatively reliable, you know. So yeah, like, what do you make, I suppose, at this point of like the constant rumours about Starks when this is not one of those cases where injury is adding to the time? He may be not on Dynamite, but this is not one of those cases where there's no reason for him not to.
No, this is a situation where there's a lot of misinformation going around surrounding Ricky Starks and all that talk about him turning down creative and rejecting ideas and stuff like that, which I'm pretty certain at least 99% of that was just shot down and proven false. The problem is when things like this get out there, people just believe them forever. So if you are an AEW superfan and you love the promotion more than individual wrestlers, you're probably subconsciously just going to choose to believe that Ricky Starks is a troublemaker and he's turning down creative, what can I say here without blowing people's spots up? I don't think that's the case. I've heard enough privately to think that Ricky Starks isn't going into the creative room and going, "No, that sucks, I'm not doing this."
Tear it up in front of the light.
That doesn't work for me, brother. I don't think that's going. I'm pretty confident in that. If I was AEW, I would just book him because he's awesome and he can make good TV. Look, if he's not going to sign and you think he's not going to stay and all that stuff, I do understand the argument of maybe Tony thinks, hey, if he's going to leave, I'm not going to use him. I disagree with it, though. I think that if someone who is over, and he has been at various points in his AEW run, and is very, very talented, he's a great pro wrestler, Ricky Starks. If he is going to leave, use him to put people over, right?
Absolutely.
Like use them to put people over on the way out.
Well, what if that fosters like a creative relationship and then things change along the way? You know?
Exactly. To me, it does seem like a bit of a breakdown of relationship between the promoter and the wrestler. I think it's a real shame because Ricky is extremely talented. I don't believe a word of this negative PR stuff that's coming out trying to paint Ricky as some kind of creative malcontent. I think it just reeks me of anti-worker nonsense. So I just want to watch Ricky Starks. Being Ricky Starks, I've loved this guy since oh my god, when like Extra Talented with Aaron Solo, like I think I first saw them. Do you remember Wrestle Circus, the Texas indie, on a show like that? And immediately the guy just stands out as this just eye-popping charisma.
It's not going to stop him getting signed if he was to leave for WWE, is it?
No,
they're going to want him regardless of if he's on TV or not.
This is it. Like, if he's going to go, he's going to go.
Yeah.
So I would just use him. I think it's silly. I think it's petty. I think there's a lot of childish BS in wrestling still. Sometimes that makes it fun.
Yeah.
But sometimes it hampers careers, as it's doing here. So let's... You have anything to add on that?
No, I'm kind of the same. I think I would like him to make the move now, but again, I say this quite a lot. Like, this is the era we're currently in is where we should be at, with there being two like mainstream televised promotions. Like the idea now of a talent being freshened up immediately by jumping is becoming normalised, and that's where we should be at.
Shelton Benjamin.
Yeah, a perfect example. Like it is. I don't know. It's a fine conversation to have rather than feeling like anybody's stabbing you, a fan, in the back if they suddenly are on like one channel rather than the other. Like we've seen like the pendulum swing business wise, but it doesn't mean that every talent is having a great time in the company they work for.
No.
So if a jump becomes available, I kind of welcome it. I want to see more of it, especially because AEW have kind of always done this, but WWE are embracing the gimmicks that the wrestlers are already established with now. So a Jade Cargill comes in as a Jade Cargill. If we see see Ricky Starks, we can expect to just see absolute Ricky Starks. Ethan Page has won the NXT title recently, just as All Ego Ethan Page. Gone are the days where they get this aggressive rebrand and they
You're now Steve the Builder.
Like CM Punk disappearing to OVW for 8 months, that kind of stuff. Like, when you get a jump, it actually feels like a jump again. So I don't even mind that this is where we're at. It's probably where we should have been at a long time ago.
Jumps are exciting. I like jumps. Might as well jump. Jump. Rest in peace, Eddie. Right, let's talk about Raw. Run time. It's 2 hours for the rest of the year. We know that. What's it going to be when it goes to Netflix? Still up in the air. Hasn't been decided. This is according to the Sports Business Journal, who notes that there are still talks over the runtime come January. So, come Tuesday. It's moving to Tuesday nights. You've heard it here first.
Imagine that. I just got picked up now. WhatCulture have it. It's moving to Tuesdays. So,
exclusive scoop skis. So Raw is moving to Netflix. It starts on Jackson Riker's favourite national holiday, January 6th. Yep. It moves over there. I usually say Drake Wirtz for that one, but branching out a little bit. It's a big deal. It's 5 years. Netflix has the option after 5 years to extend that to 10. Or is it 10 and they have the option to cancel after 5?
It's massive, isn't it?
It's one of those. It's a big money deal, although, like, something that's under talked about with this is it was 40% under the market projections, the value-wise. So while it is an objectively huge number, it's not as huge as it first thought. With it, WWE appears to be starting to get out of the TV rights business. They're out of the metrics business. They're like, give us money, you deal with the rest. Pretty much. They're not going to be worried about ratings and stuff because there's Netflix. It doesn't exist. So, it's a big move. It's one that could increase the promotion's popularity because everyone's got Netflix.
It's kind of terrestrial at this point, Netflix, isn't it?
Yeah,
really?
basically. Yeah. I don't watch TV. I watch Netflix and Disney Plus. Yeah.
Linear on the uppers and downers. Yeah.
And the Internet Archive when it's not when it's not down. But and then the dog with the classical music. Me and him are
obviously
doodaloo. If you know, you know. There you go.
Like, think about the Raw runtime, or indeed, I guess, how people engage with Raw as a program on Netflix. I think is only going to really reveal itself when the show drops.
Yeah.
I'm sure if you get our top 10 on Netflix, we don't get ratings, but we can see the top 10. And some shows, if they're successful, Netflix will reveal the data just to trumpet it. Basically, we've been seeing like the big numbers for the Vince McMahon documentary. That's one close to our world. But then typically, whenever there's a big release, you get a bit of information. So if Raw does well, we will certainly hear about it.
It'll outdo like the Carpenter, who was also a murderer.
Yeah, all that sort of stuff. However, I wonder if it's still, because we're all still set in our ways with TV and thinking about Raw, well, it's a 2-hour property or it's a 3-hour property. Maybe it will just be looser in general because it's Netflix. We don't know yet how they'll want to promote Raw. Is it just please tune in on a Monday night like you always have habitual American viewers, or is it just it's on demand now, catch up whenever you want? Like, will WWE like that because it's not how they've operated? Raw's 1993, so for the last 40 years,
because Raw goes on the network, was it 28 days later, something like that?
So this is because it's there. I think it's going to be live and on demand Raw on Netflix. This is kind of a new frontier in every respect. They're going to have to assess how people, like I say, engage with it, what their viewing habits, if they're going to change. Is it going to be a case now where some fans become a bit comfy with, say, catching up with a Raw on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and will WWE like that because it's not fit their model ever before until now? I think these all this stuff feels like it's still all to play for. Like, it can be malleable. I would like the show to be the length it needs to be rather than being set to 2 and 3. Not being bound by TV times. I think it should help it.
Well, you don't have to, theoretically, you don't have to squeeze in all these ad breaks, do you, right? That'll be an interesting facet of it. Will they still sell ad space on Netflix? Is there a precedent for that? If there is, let us know in the comments. I genuinely have no idea. I know platforms like Amazon Prime and ITVX here in the UK and the BBC. Well, not the BBC, it's a TV license thing, but they have ad breaks and all this stuff, and there are lower tiers on various platforms that have ads. But if you're paying, I think my Netflix is like $17.99. It's absurd.
Is that for the one without the ads or without anything?
It's the top one. It's the 4K one because I got a shiny TV and I was like, well, I want shiny ass Netflix to go with that. So it'd be interesting to see. I think structurally the show's going to be a fun one to pick apart come Tuesday.
And no word yet still on the nature of what the network / Peacock looks like behind that WWE button on Netflix as well. Are they going to port everything over behind one button. It seems unlikely.
If I can't watch my Crockett, man, I'm going to be fizzing.
This is it. This is why that Vault channel's on the rise now. All of a sudden, that's going to be a necessity.
Get that classical music dog on the blower.
Do you know what you might choose to watch if you were going to watch something for WWE? You might want to watch Survivor Series 2019, where Keith Lee had his best night on the main roster.
There you go.
He didn't have many other good ones, but like he's still on the road to recovery.
Yes.
Some good news, bad news from Keith Lee at the moment. He is at least the one reporting this himself, addressing a bit of speculation about his health and his ongoing absence from AEW television. He said in an update to his Twitter followers, quote, "I certainly don't see them all, but I have seen many and I must say thank you. I must take the time to tell you we are not done. Hang in there just like I am. Whatever it is, the time will come. Let's move forward. Oh, and don't forget to vote." So there's Keith Lee, your friendly neighbour, offering you advice around election season, but also to say that obviously not great if there's no timeline, if anyone could, it would be him, I guess. But fingers crossed, as we often say when we talk about Keith Lee, to get well soon.
Yeah, he's had the garbage few years, the poor guy. I miss him. I like having Keith Lee on my screen. I think that he doesn't have to give anyone any more information than he's giving them now. It's obviously whatever the heck's going on with him, that's his to hold on to and to share as he sees fit. I would like to see him wrestle again, whenever, but ultimately the man has to look after himself. No idea what's going on with him, but it's not our right to know. This guy almost died before 2020, 2021 when he had that other long hiatus. He had a really rough thing with his heart and everything else. So best wishes to him. I think it's quite disheartening sometimes to come online and see some of the dumb stuff that people say about Keith Lee, and I wish that garbage would stop. Even things like, that Gunther Stark tweet that he made, water, all that gets hung over his head, and it's like, man, just stop, leave this guy alone. Best wishes to him. Hope he's on the road to recovery, and nice to hear from him. Yeah,
I think that's it, isn't it? Like, you want that kind of I like it when wrestlers are able to acknowledge things if things are quiet on them for a while, because it's a difficult industry and you get concerned about people's health and well-being and stuff, and this is a good example of that. So it's nice that he's come forward. He should hopefully feel, if the whispers and those rumours were true as well, that what he can come back to is something positive. There was the story a couple of weeks ago that there were serious discussions, should he have been able to make a late 2023 return, for him doing something with Swerve Strickland. That wasn't this completely dropped ball. It was something they wanted to pick up, even if it was just for maybe Swerve to go over and kind of finally close that loop. But now that story is suddenly bigger than ever, right? If that is now him coming back in and working effectively a main eventer straight out of the gate. So that's not the worst thing to be coming back to.
I'd be pretty sick if he could do that. Yeah.
So getting himself back well and able to do that would be awesome. So it doesn't at least seem like doors have closed on Keith Lee while he's been absent, and obviously still with AEW. So fingers crossed. The next update is an even better one than that, and it's nice that he can be the one to. What is it like? I don't want to use the phrase "control your narrative," but take control of your own story.
Yes,
Sure. There's not enough of that probably anymore. So it's nice for Keith Lee to go.
And he is set up for an incredible return if he's able to as well. So best wishes to Keith. Hey, thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this one, there'll be another one later today. But in the meanwhile, here's this one as well. The algorithm thinks you're really going to enjoy it. If you don't,
we do too.
We love you by Brother Love.